Hallo und herzlich willkommen zur nächsten Ausgabe von Drink at Home. Seit gestern ist es leider gewiss, dass wir leider auf längere Zeit noch auf unsere geliebte Gastronomie verzichten müssen. Die Regierung hat announced, dass mit 7. Jänner es hoffentlich wieder so weit sein wird, dass wir uns alle gemeinsam in der Gastronomie treffen können. Aber es ist, wie es ist. Wir müssen mit dieser sehr schwierigen Situation umgehen und bald ist dieses Jahr vorbei und es ist sehr spannend, dass es vermehrt Anfragen gibt, auch von ausländischen Brauereien, die ganz einfach mit uns hier in Österreich Biere verkosten wollen. Und heute am Abend ist es so, dass wir eine sehr spezielle Brauerei mit einem sehr guten Freund von mir zu Gast haben. Wir haben 6 Biere ausgesucht, die sicher sehr gut und sehr speziell sind. Und deshalb freut es mich wirklich sehr, dass so viele dem Aufruf gefolgt sind und wir heute eine wirklich schöne Zahl sind, die gemeinsam mit dem James von Verdant verkosten werden. Ganz kurz für alle, die vielleicht zum ersten Mal dabei sind. Ihr habt in euren Boxen diese Verkostnotizen, da seht ihr die Biere, die wir gemeinsam verkosten werden, genauso die Reihenfolge, dann kurz über unseren Gast ein paar Wörter und über mich. Und dann gibt es diesen Verkostungsbogen, wo ihr euch ganz einfach persönliche Notizen machen könnt zu den Bieren bis hin zu positiv oder negativ. Ganz kurz, bevor wir zu Englisch switchen, sei gesagt, der James, ein unglaublicher Fachmann. Er kennt natürlich seine Biere, aber das Spannende ist, er ist ein Experte, wenn es darum geht, um den englischen Markt. Also wir können heute sehr viele Fragen stellen, auch über die Situation der Brauereien, wie es ihnen geht von der Größe herab. Es gibt immer wieder diese Punkte, die man hört, dass eben auf gewisse Art und Weise die Größe sehr entscheidend ist in England, was die Steuern betrifft. Und das alles sind Sachen, die wir heute gemeinsam mit James besprechen werden. So, good evening.
How's it going?
It's a really pleasure and honor to have you as a guest.
It's a pleasure to be here, or I was talking to you guys.
Yeah, no, it's really, really cool. So I would say some words about you before we start talking about Verdant.
Yeah, sure.
So I would say, tell us a little bit about you.
It's always really difficult to talk about myself. So my uncle got me into brewing. He was the head brewer for Tetley's for 30 years in Leeds, and that's where I started, which is now Carlsberg, which is a little bit of a dirty word in the UK. But, as a young brewer, they teach you a lot of things about consistency and production and how to, make beer the right way, which is, a good start. And then I met Mike from Lervig, who I'm sure a few of you have had Lervig beers over the years. And he told me about this brewery that he had in Norway. And I jumped on the plane and never came back. And that was in 2012. I was brewing a lot more craft beer back then than I'd ever had, brewed before. We tried stuff at Tetley's, but at Lervig, we were really, experimental, American hops, barley wines, even barrel aging beers. Back in 2012, the only type of interesting beer in Norway was really homebrew stuff. Nugna was just starting. So it was really fun for me to be on like the front wave of this and see these American beers coming over and trying to replicate that. And then Mike knew Mikkel from Mikkeller and Jeppe. So again, more influence from them, sharing bottles and stuff coming back and forth. And then we started making Mikkeller dark beer and I got really into stouts. And then I met the guys at Wild Beer and moved back to the UK because my visa was expiring in Norway. Had a great 3 years there, loved them, made some great beers, really focused on sour beers and barrels and learned a lot about alternative fermentation, not clean beer. So unlearning everything I learned from Tetley's, the Carlsberg. Yeah. And then, I did a quick stint for a Canadian brewery, helping them out, but ran its course. And now I'm at Verdant. I've known Adam and the guys for 5 years since they started and just really loved the idea of what they wanted to do. But if I'm brutally honest, I never thought it would get very big in the UK because the UK is so traditional, you know, and this is a really American style thing with these really hazy, modern, progressive beers that if I give a can of this to my dad, he's not drinking it. You know, he's like, no, it's not finished. It's not ready. I don't like it. So, you know, I was happy to be wrong. You know, I love being there, and what we're doing is, for me, it's like the very front of modern brewing. But yeah, it's maybe a few years ahead of where I thought we'd be. So that's like a quick 5 minutes of my history and what I've done.
Cool. Perfect. I would say we're going to start with the first beer. But first of all, I have a question, or maybe also the people which are sitting at home. You know, normally we learned, or all the tastings I did, it was always, you know, go from style to style, and then also take care of the ABVs.
Yeah.
But when we set it up, the tasting together with you, you came out with, no, hold on, guys. I will explain you how we're going to taste the beers. And it's now, we're going to start with a pale ale, then it's an IPA, then it's again a pale ale. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, of course. So when we're doing tastings that are, you know, pretty big, we're talking about 440 cans here. If we were having flights, I would stick with your style of, you know, we'll take the progression up.
Okay.
But I don't expect you to drink the whole can at the speed and then go to the next, to the next, to the next.
Yeah.
The idea is, you know, in my head at least, you will have the 6 beers in front of you, and the one you like, you'll go back to. But in order to see the different hop profile, I need you to change the beers with me. Because if we just go to double IPAs at the end, you're only going to taste the same hops all the way through the double IPAs. Because there's aggressive dry hop in there, you know. I understand it's not usual, especially if you're judging beers. People are like, what is this? But yeah, the idea is that you'll probably get through about a third, 2/3 of the beer, go next, and then if you like it, you can go back whenever you want. You don't have to stay with me, but this way you're not tasting the wrong beer or mixing the beers up.
Which is a good and really nice advisement from you, because it makes sense now. And so I would say open the first beer.
Okay, we can do that.
It's
light bulb.
Yes.
Yeah. So we don't really have a hero beer or a beer that we want, you know, to sell so much of or make so much of or tell everyone this is our beer. But we understand we have to have what we call a gateway beer. You know, this is the beer, if you never had our beers, generally, this is the beer we put in front of someone and say, try this. It's the entry into what we do. We call it an extra pale ale. It's a pale ale, but it's got a lot of hop, you know, content in it, but it's not aggressive. It's soft. It's juicy. It's not going to blow you away. You know, it's not too bitter. It's easy. You know, here we're drinking like pints all the time, you know, when we're allowed. So we had to take that in consideration. Personally, I would probably have it 5.5, but because it's pints and you're drinking 4, 5, 6, it's 4.5, so you can go longer. You know, they have this horrible word, session pale ale. I don't know what it means, you know. Every time drinking is a session, so everything should be session, you know. Session tonic, session stout, I don't know. But yeah, it's a platform into the other beers. You know, It's a regular everyday beer. We always have some of these. Every one of the brewery have 6 of these in their fridge, because when you just want to have a beer and not think about it, it's this one.
Then let's pour it into the glass and see what we can get out.
I've got to get you guys some of these extremely rare glasses over, like that. We've been waiting for them for years from Rastal.
Okay, and now you get them.
Yep, now they're here. So I'll do my best to make sure they're on the pallet that leaves tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
I think it's tomorrow. Maybe it's Friday, Monday.
Okay, perfect. So
I know it's ready. So
people, listen. There's more fresh beer on the way soon to Vienna. That's the good thing, or even to Austria. So once again, cheers.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm. That's a fruit juice bomb.
Yeah, I mean it's a classic Simcoe Centennial. For us, Simcoe is this slightly more traditional American hop. It's more traditional in the sense it's older than the new wave of the hype hops. People probably used to seeing Simcoe on a lot of beers now, but for us, it was important to make, the beer, the everyday beer, or what we call it everyday beer, with everyday hops. We can't be telling people this is a standard pale ale if we're putting Nelson Sauvin and, Motueka and all these crazy New World hops in it. Centennial and Simcoe is probably 2 of the 5 oldest in the US. So, it's not gonna trailblaze, but it's certainly real easy and real drinkable, and that's what we're aiming for with this one. I'm not trying to punch anyone in the palate with this.
But means this then that light bulb, for example, will be or is available all year round?
Yeah. So we brew the way that the brewery is set up, and this is from the old site. We moved in January this year, but in the old space that we call Unit 6, we used to use dish bottom tanks, so flat tanks with dry yeast. So we would have to brew a pale ale, harvest the yeast, grow into an IPA, harvest the yeast, grow into a double IPA. So the brewers are used to this pattern. So pale Monday, IPA Tuesday, double Wednesday. The reason for this now in the new space to carry over is so we can always say, right, pale IPA, double IPA. So of the 2 pales, it's light bulb headband, always available. The 2 IPAs is Sharks and Neal. And the 2 dippers is PSI and Fruit Car.
Okay. Is this something which will be new for next year, or is it already happening?
The plan is to make it 3 next year. So they know 3 beers a week, 3 weeks a month. So we take 1 week without brewing. So we will brew the same 3 beers the first Monday of the month, the second Monday of the month, the third Monday of the month. Okay. And then the final week, they can make something new. But the reason for this is, we are, demand is way outstripping supply right now. So we need to make more of the same beers, but still be able to make new stuff. And if they want to make lagers, stouts, sour beers, we can play with it, but we have to stay with hoppy beers. Our specialty is hoppy beers. Everyone knows us for hoppy beers. I don't really want to be putting Imperial, 12% barrel-aged stouts in cans. We don't have a bottling machine, so it's there has to be some justification for what we make. We don't really play with fruit sours or anything for the sake of it. We've done a couple, but it's collaborations mostly. We just want to make hoppy beers and make them really well.
But I think it's a smart and really wise decision, to stay on that kind of thing what you guys are known for, and that's really hoppy beers. And so I was really surprised when I got the last list, and there was a stout on the list.
Yeah, for me, the stout is a lot more, I have to be really careful what I say now, because I drink a lot of beer. I drink a lot of beers, but I'm British and I'm born in London and I lived in London. So I'm used to these traditional, robust porters.
Okay.
I grew up drinking them. Probably my most drunk beer is the Colonel Export India Stout.
Okay.
So we know with the new brewery, we can make extremely high Plato mashes, like 27, 30 Plato easy. So we started talking about dark beers and wanting to do more, but keep them very small and special and, no adjuncts. And I don't have a problem with adjuncts, but we don't want to use them because we'd never use them. So it would be really difficult for us to work with syrups and flavors that we've never had anything before. So we just said with the last 2, okay, we'll make a traditional, like a dry porter, like an oyster stout. We would call it in London an oyster stout. Mm-hmm. And then an imperial stout because, I used to brew a lot of dark beers before. So I know my way around a recipe for a dark beer. But we would look to make very small amounts and keep them, special. Not to say they're really expensive, but keep them special for our investors or for our friends or for, if we knew we were having a birthday party, Adam's birthday party coming up, okay, let's have something special for this. So, we can experiment now. And you'll see more dark beers coming, but not a lot. It's not something for, to plan on. They're there when they're there. And, when they've gone, they've gone.
Okay. Good to know. Something new also for me.
Something new, but also, it's nice to have a dark beer in the winter. It's something very romantic about that for me.
Yeah, that's true.
Fire on with a dark beer, it's okay to fall asleep.
Yes, that's true. With a book in your hand and immediately, that's it. Yeah.
It's winter.
Okay, cool. So let's talk a little bit about food. Is there something you would recommend with that kind of beer?
So food is a tricky one because it's been so long since we've had beer and food together in the pub or the restaurant. I've forgotten what to say or to have. Generally, in a seafood bar would probably be. So for most people probably don't know, but we have a small restaurant in Farmer where we don't have a menu. So every morning the fishermen go out and they ring the guy who manages the place and say, we have 2 lobsters, 3 cods, blah, blah, blah. He make the menu the day.
Okay.
And then he rings the brewery and says, okay, I've got lobster, so I need light bulb, or I've got, I want to make tacos, so I need sharks. Like he will tell us what beers to bring based on what food he want to make. So with light bulb, because it's so, non-extreme, generally anything with citrus or anything that's going to make it come up a little bit more. So anything sharp or acidic is going to make the beer really shine. I would stay away from anything fatty, like no burgers with this. Like it's not gonna help you. But yeah, generally with light bulb, he's normally we normally see this ceviche type dish that he'll make. Like a lot of lemon, a lot of lime, a lot of citrus flavors. Something acidic is okay. But yeah, nothing fatty because it will confuse completely.
It's too light.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've had to think about that.
That's true. Same here, So our government announced yesterday. I told to the people, of course, everyone knows, but the lockdown will continue until the 7th of January, and then they will decide, what they're gonna do. And it's really, really bad for all of us in the industry, but also for the tourism, because even hotels will not be allowed. And especially tourism, during the winter time is really important for our economy. And so,
yeah, absolutely. So,
it will be a difficult future, and we will see. But hopefully, we will also get soon this vaccine that we can be on the safe side. Because yesterday we get the news, even in the news in Austria, that you guys want to be one of the first country in Europe which gets the vaccine. And they told us that Queen Mom will be one of the first persons which will be waxed when they have it ready. But
you're getting the same vaccine Donald Trump got.
Okay.
Quick, straight through, no problem.
That's quick and straight through. So let's talk about.
It's strange for us, we're British. The pub is like a cornerstone of our life. We don't just go there once a week. We're probably, without thinking about it, it's 5-6 days a week. When we leave the brewery, we go to the pub to have a beer. We don't have a beer at the brewery because it's not the pub. We instinctively go there. We have our dinner on Sunday there. We watch every football game in there. It's like, I know it's a huge thing to lose, and it's now really hard to imagine going back. Like it's so strange, normally if you lose something, you think you missed it. You can only think about going back, having it again. Now I think about it's not going to be as good, so I don't want it. It's really, really weird.
That's cool. Same goes also for us here in Austria, because people are really used to go for an after-work beer, and that's something, it's socializing, because you need this contact to other people, because that's where business is made, where you build new relationships, new friendships. Even people get married, after a visit in a bar or in a restaurant, and also the Austrians are really used to drink a lot of beer, so half liter. Is this what you call a pint? But yeah, it's all gone, and so hopefully it will be back soon. So guys, as I told you, come out with questions, ask, whatever you want. We can both help you and answer whatever you want. So I would say, let's go for the next beer.
Okay.
And then we talk a little bit about the history of the brewery.
Sure. Yeah.
So next one is Neal get things done.
Neal
get things done.
I can't tell you anything about the names.
Why?
Because the names are, there is no process with the names of the beer.
Okay.
The artwork, I can explain about the artwork and the reason with the artwork. But especially if you hold them both up, you can see it's the same, same style, very psychedelic.
Mm-hmm.
But the names, there's no rules for the names. We have, Slack, this work program software.
Mm-hmm.
We just have a channel and people throw names in there. And when someone likes one, it gets picked out. And sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not.
Okay.
There's no logic.
Funny way, yeah?
A lot of people say, some of the names are so clever. Like, there's no thought.
Okay. And when it comes to the design or the artwork?
So there's all the artwork generally is done by one person with the exception of Neal, Lightbulb, and Mary Lou. So those three that look so different compared to the others, you can spot that they are illustrated. So everything else is done by a guy called James, another James, the third James.
Okay.
I think the original reason was Adam and James wanted to just do Lightbulb one time, and they asked him to make the label. And then again, more, it got bigger, it got more popular. Then they made Neal is the big brother of Lightbulb. So they said, okay, we need another label. And then after that, they need another label for further. And then they said, he said, I'm too busy. I can't make all these beer labels. So yeah, but now it's like something that's 3 years old. So we don't want to kill it. Like we have to keep it. And the label it's very, it used to be very unique and stand out now with this, but now there's so many labels flying around with craft beer. I don't even know anymore if to me, it still looks pretty unique, but I see these, colors and this psychedelic font and think, I'm sure someone else is copying this now.
Cool. So the first question is coming.
Uh-huh.
During this coronavirus, is there any support out from camera, for example? Is there some help, or who is helping the brewing industry in the UK if it's not camera?
That's a good question. I would say, so 2 years ago, Camera put a new chairman in place who is extremely pro modern beer, James Goulding, like extremely pro modern beer. And he has this impossible task of trying to make traditional happy and modern happy. But he's really trying. And the modern guys don't really have any expectation. With Camera, it's sort of like, if we can make it work, great, but we don't know life with it, so we're okay without it. Whereas the traditional guys think we're a threat to them. We're like, no, actually, macro beer is your problem, not us. Guys that drink cask beer drink IPAs, cans, stouts. Modern craft beer and traditional beer is quite similar. So he's trying, but honestly, the government don't care about Camera. It's such a tiny thing, it's not a trade body. It's a bunch of people trying to make it something.
Okay.
They do their festivals, they volunteer things. We have a trade body called SIBA, which is very much like the Brewers Association of America, so it's Society of Independent Brewers in the UK. Now, Camera and SIBA don't really talk that much. but they're trying to, and they're working through it. And, but honestly, the short answer is no. We used to have these Thursday Zooms with the other brewers. So Cloudwater, Verdant, Left Hand Giant, Daya, Gypsy Hill, I'm probably missing a few, Wylam. We would just get together as a group and say, here's some issues we're having, what's working, what's not working, what do we think is going on, who is a problem, in terms of a risk, who can we sell beer to, who's not paying bills, who's, playing fair. Because that was the biggest issue was bars ordering, knowing that they were going to shut, and, the stock turning up, which was moved straight on to some other bar for half the price, and the first bar collapsed. So we don't even, when the auditors go in, the stock's gone. It was not an easy April, but it got a lot easier with time.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely the other brewers would be the answer for that. They really banded around each other and helped. It was really tricky. It was the same for you guys. You don't know if you can pay your bills, and you don't know if you can pay your staff, and you don't know if you can pay yourself. And then, people still don't know. It's really horrible level of uncertainty.
That's true, and no one knows really when the end will be there, because what we see or what we expect is that so many people will lose their jobs during the next kind of months, and 21 will be really, really difficult for many families, because
I would say this time way harder than the first time for us, exponentially harder. It's not that anything has changed in situations. Like, we know, okay, lockdown is lockdown and rules are the rules, but people don't know the end now. And, the first time, or how it feels for us, is that we've had two. It was shut and then it was open again, now it's shut again. And now it's shut the second time. We don't know how long we can survive. So businesses, breweries especially, have had to be extremely clever and change everything. And now, not order what we would like to order, and not be able to do what we would like to do, and not be able to expand and invest in the brewery and the team the way we would like to. And, it's tough. I would love to say to my staff on the 21st of December, here's a check for your bonus. But I have to say to them, guys, there's no bonus, because you get to keep your job. That's the bonus. And we get to keep the lights on. And when we come out of it, the first thing I'll do is pay you back. Like, the first thing we'll do is make sure you're okay. But until then, we just have to survive. It's
we have to stay together, and take care of the company, because that's the future. That's our income. And so it doesn't make sense. You can give them the check this month, but then next month maybe you have to switch off the lights. And
they worked really hard this year. Like, they've really had a hard year. We transitioned from a 4,000 hex site to a 12,000 hex site. It's a big growth. New team members, new machines, new everything. So
new setup.
It hurts me to not be able to say, here's a bonus.
I can understand this. So there's a question coming out, is there a connection between the yeast, Larimar, Verdant, and the name of the brewery?
Yep, absolutely.
So then we can talk a little bit about the brewery and the name.
So the name, what it means in Latin is green. You know this, right? Yeah, you know this because you heard it from Adam. But so everyone else knows, it's Verdantis means green or forest in Latin. And the way that we used to use our yeast was this dry yeast from Lallemand that we would pitch up from pale to IPA to dipper. And about a year ago, I think it was Patrick, I'm not sure who got in touch with James Heffron about making a yeast pitch for us, because after we would pitch the dry yeast in the pails, we would also pitch a Lallemand wet yeast. So the IPAs and the dippers would ultimately be a blend of the two strains. So we would send them back cans for them to isolate the strains, and they would say, well, hang on, like, it's maybe 30% of the dry yeast, but it's also 40% of the wet yeast, and then something else has happened in here that we didn't create. So it took them a long time, and eventually they came back and said, right, we've isolated this into a dry yeast. Do you now want to, have a sample of it and experiment with it. So then we started brewing Sharks and Neal and the IPAs with this dry yeast, and we got to a phase where we went back and said, okay, they're going to release a homebrew yeast, which is Verdant Lallemand yeast, which is now called New England, IPA yeast. Mm-hmm. So it was sort of a happy accident, I guess, at the start, and then now it's it's getting there. I don't know commercially who else is using it. I doubt anybody. They've all got their own variants of Burlington or White Yeast, White Labs, and Lallemand are the three that people want to use.
Okay.
But this one came about because of the dry yeast in the dish bottom tank. And we like the flavor. We think it's just the right side of sweet and almondy, and then the hops come up. Too much sweet and it goes like bubblegum and difficult. But yeah, we now feel like we built the whole brewery around this, so we can't change this process of pale IPA dipper. That's like our thing now.
But it's a good thing.
Yeah, it works.
You build the brewery around that kind of. No, it works. It really makes sense.
If we just start throwing in lagers, everyone will be like, "What is? How's this?" For tank management, tank rotation, everything. Staff shifts, ordering, expectations for the sales team and the logistics team, everything is repeating, so it's really, it feels like as accurate as we can make it, which is a rare thing for craft brewers for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I agree. So can you tell us how many grams of hops are inside this beer? Can you give us something like an idea? Because
in Neal there'll be 22.5
per liter.
So, per liter. So, and that's Citra, Mosaic, and Nelson, which is, two of the three most expensive ones out there. But if you're talking about a regular, give me an Austrian beer. Give me a regular beer that people are drinking all the time. Like
in Austria?
Yeah, like Trumpf or Trumpf. Is that one of you?
Trummapils can be something, but sometimes it's really rare to find, and difficult to find even in off-trade channels. But then, of course, there's Gösser, there's Wieselburger. When we talk about the mainstream beers.
Yeah. So a mainstream beer would probably have about 0.3 grams per liter. Yeah. And it would be extremely cheap, what we call noble hops, which are earthy. If you're making a dinner, the only the translation would be, I'm going to give you loads of potatoes to make you full up. So loads of cheap hops in, and then the quality hops we'll put a tiny bit in because it's okay. But like most craft IPAs, most craft beer are probably coming out about 4 or 5 grams a liter. And it's not, like, I have to stress, it's not an egotistical thing. Like, the more you put in, the better it will be. The more you put in, the more flavor you will have. But you have to balance this with everything else. The other hops, the yeast, and the malt, and the water. If you start putting in loads and loads of hops, and the beer is really thin, it'll taste really strange. It'll
be really aggressive.
What we call hop burn. Like you'll feel this. Like, yeah, exactly. But it's warm here and just constantly like you need to burp, but you can't. So, you need soft water, lots of hops, but not overboiled. And then you need the yeast to be just sweet enough to give it that, like, that combination of the three of them. So it's thick, mouthfeel, a lot of flavor, but fruity, and then sweet. And you don't realize you're drinking a 6.5% beer.
Okay. There's the owner watching our conversation from the brewery, which is called Next Level, and they did a new beer, and they also fermented it with this Verdant yeast, what we discussed before. So
I can't get any to make my homebrew with. It's sold out all the time. I go in there, it's sold out.
Really?
Now I want to make some for homebrew. We don't have a pilot kit anymore.
Okay.
We used to have this really, I say nice, it wasn't nice. It was just a perfect size. It was 1,000 liters. So you could make, a good amount of beer, waste a bit, give some to friends, try it. But now we don't have, so I only have my little, pots and pans in the kitchen.
Okay. Homebrew. Okay.
Yeah.
Martin is asking, wait, this is a little bit of a longer question. How important would you rate the label design for a brewery like yours? Would you agree that labels are underrated in importance nowadays?
Yeah, I think they are. I think fundamentally, I can't think of another product in the world that you can have so many eyes on, but it's one and done. You know, like you buy it, you drink it, you finish with it. So I am extremely set in my ways. You know, I'm an older guy. I only wear Nike trainers. I only buy Carhartt clothes. I only, you know, wear Levi's jeans. It's really, for me, the same every time. I don't care what they make, but the world is not like that anymore. You know, my stepson is 16 and he's like, I like this. He's changing all the time. So yeah, breweries and beers, it's super important, the branding, and you can spot. I think there's a big difference for me as a brewer and this side of the fence, as someone that understands beer, between what's really strong commercial branding when it's not trying to be, and then stuff that is really trying to make people look at it, you know, and the money is in the art and not in the beer. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of breweries like that, but there's a lot of breweries that make really good beer that have bad labels. You need people to make you drawn to it and to pick it up. And we have this sort of expression that once it's in your hand and you're looking at it, you're not putting it down. You know, maybe you think, I shouldn't buy it, but I'm going to. But once you have it in your hand, you know, you got them. You know, it's a blank canvas and you can't have that. You know, I can only see a T-shirt on the rack and I can only see a pair of trainers on the thing. With this, it's like you can do what you want. You know, here is, it's like an album cover. You know, you look at them and you think, that looks interesting. I don't know this band, but I'm drawn into it. You know, and you're not committed to the purchase. You buy it. If you don't like it, okay, it's fine. You know, it didn't cost me the same as a pair of trainers or the same as a T-shirt, whatever. I think it's really important that the breweries have good branding. I'm not going to say they need to have an illustrator because, you know, some work, some don't. But the brewery should have a consistent message. You know, it's really important that it manifests itself the same with the art and the labels and the message. You know, like we couldn't have really boring cans. Like, would not be able to put liquid like this in these cans. People would not, you know, if they were just all white cans with the name, you know, the text, it wouldn't work.
You can do it once. You can do it once because still the name of the brewery written on it, you know, and then it can be a message, you know.
Yeah. Like the Kernels is so good because it's not changed now.
Yeah. The
first time it came out, everyone was like, "What is that? You know, where's the effort?" But now it's like, oh, well, they've done it for 10 years, so it has to stay. But yeah.
Similar with Demolin also, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And Demolin were the first to have all this text. I remember looking at a Demolin can for like, I think it was, what was the beer they made? Hammer and Sickle or something years ago.
Yeah, thinking, in a slim can.
Why do you have all these texts on the can? But no, it's to answer this question, it's probably the second most important thing behind the quality of the beer. Yeah. You know, if you're the kind of consumer that is into craft beer, you don't look at the price until third. First, you're looking at the style, then the label, then the price. For me, at least, you know, I'm not so concerned with what it's going to cost other than what style and what it looks like.
Cool. That was a proper answer. And I completely agree. No, it's fine.
It was a good question.
Only guys asking, wait, before I forget this question, you know, Can you tell us the final gravity of Neal?
16.8.
Short, sharp answer for you, Veronica.
The rule of thumb with these is we have a range. So with the pales, there'll be something, with the IPA, something else, and the doubles. But
okay,
I know with Neal and Sharks, It's 15.9 for Sharks and 16.8 for Neal, because I'm forever entering it into the computer.
Okay.
It's like muscle memory for me now.
Sorry, and Stefan is asking why you decided to fill the beer in a 044 liter can.
Okay. I don't even think I know the answer for this.
Okay.
But I would guess that a half liter is just a bit too much and doesn't feel right. And a 33, no, it's not enough.
Can it be a price point, because also okay, it's a little bit low in the price. 044 is even. It's
Could
still
be
high, especially for the Austrians.
It could be.
Come then to discuss this, but then imagine, if it's in a 0.5 liter can, then it's getting even more expensive.
If I'm brutally honest, I think it's probably a combination of can availability.
Okay.
Literage, when you're working it out, okay, it's 10.5 cases per can. It's easier maths than 12 liters, and also serve size. If you want to brew IPA, pales, dippers, everything in one, it's possible. Imperial IPAs in this is not possible. Barley wines in this is not possible. Pale ales in 330, people are going to get like, I need 16 of these. I need like Andre the Giant holding these tiny little cans, So I think it's probably a combination of the three. But yeah, it feels right now like it's a very UK thing, 440,
I agree.
But we're
most of the UK brewers use now this kind of stuff.
You will see some T-shirts next week coming out that we only, it says we only make 440s for like as a
I
job.
already saw it, it's already online, sweaters and T-shirts,
Because in the UK, what we call, these LPs, vinyls, we're calling them 440s. So it's a joke.
Okay.
So yeah, we only like 440s.
You started saying, maybe it's kind of a supply issue. So during this lockdown or during 2020, do you had some supply issues from Paul?
No, we were quite good. We were quite lucky with that. So when the first reports of this were coming in, I was actually on holiday in Asia.
Okay.
So when did we go to the football game? September, October time?
Yeah, September.
So I started in October, and then for Christmas we were in Vietnam, and then I remember it being like on the news a lot, and they were calling it then like another swine flu. And then in February I was in Italy just before Italy got hit really hard. And I came back and said to the guys, this problem is it's real. We have to be prepared for worst case scenario. And we talked to Paul at Cloudwater, whose his family's from Hong Kong, and they were saying the same thing. So as soon as the government announced the initial lockdown, we said to Crown, okay, how much now to change the band of our contract? And we must have timed it perfectly because no one else or very few other people had asked them. They'd said no to new contracts, but not to taking your own up. The biggest worry for me was getting out of our keg contract. Obviously, in the UK, we use steels. We have this network of steel kegs that we walk around.
It's keg style,
Yeah. But they've been amazing. They've been so helpful. They've stopped charging everyone. They've just said, don't worry, we're not expecting you to buy, to fill, just treat it like it's finished. The contract is void. So everyone sent their kegs back. It's really smart from them because now everyone trusts them and want to work with them forever. But we were really worried about this, because we had big contracts with both of them, and we thought we can't change it, or if we change it, we're in a huge penalty for changing it.
Okay.
That's been basically my job for the last 4 months, is predicting how much beer we want to make and how much we want to put in the can, and when the cans can come and how many labels we need, and do we make kegs? Do we not make kegs? Yeah. It's like the hardest moving target,
That's true. Packaging size.
But it's fun. I wouldn't change it for the world. It's like, I don't know if it's the best job in the world because I haven't done all the jobs, but I think it's got to be in the top 10 for sure.
Okay, cool. So now we're going to the next beer.
Okay.
Invisible
Ceiling.
That's the can. And it's still, and also a special artwork.
Yep. So this is James. James W. Yeah. So that one's his. So this one you should taste something quite different with this compared to light bulb. Remembering that they're the same style, like Brew One and Strata. They are extremely
rare,
on trend. Demand right now is for this taste, this tropical pineapple coconut, like
Strata.
Yeah, for me it's like trying to make
kiwi is coming out, pineapple. Yeah.
For me, it's like you're trying to make things taste as far away from a beer. As possible. I'll just there you go. My VPN is trying to tell me that.
Okay.
I need to change it. So yeah, for me, it's like it's quite a jump from light bulb to ceilings. But for us, it's really fun to showcase the flavors that are in these different beers and these different styles. Because really, the malt bill is very similar, the water bill is very similar. The difference is just
the hops.
And look, it's not derogatory or I'm not ridiculing people, but not everyone realizes how different it can taste. It's for me, it's the difference between like having a banana and a strawberry. Like,
I completely agree.
So
because our both friend, Vasia had a beer 3 or 4 weeks ago. And he was really happy that even a brewery in Austria gets the hands on Strata, and that's why.
Yes, you're going to see a lot of it next year. Everyone will be brewing with Strata.
Yeah. And that's expensive, This kind of hop is really expensive because the demand is so high.
They bring out this new hop that they know everyone's going to want because they know everyone is like, they enjoy. Everyone likes pineapple and coconut, I never met one person that doesn't like both those things. I don't really like a coconut as much as I like pineapple, but still I want both those things. So
Is it the first beer you did with Strata this year?
It's the fifth.
The fifth already, okay.
We did a collaboration with the hop farmer.
Okay.
So we've done 4 collabs this year, all with hop farmers. We're not picky in the sense that like we don't say no to collaborations. I like to do them. But for us, it's really difficult because, and again, this is going to sound like I'm being a complete dickhead. If a brewery says to me, James, we want to come make an IPA with you, I'm like, no, you want me to make an IPA for your brewery.
Okay.
We are not learning anything making a hazy IPA with this brewery. If you want to make a hazy IPA with a technique I never seen before, we're interested. If it's just to put a Verdant beer in a can with someone else's art, I kind of don't care. So at the start of the year, James went out and met a lot of the hop farmers and the suppliers and said, if you have experimental products, let us work with them. We want to play with them. We have the facility, we have the knowledge, we think, to make these beers. So we made blended blur, solid state. We made about 5 beers with different either hops or hop products. We've done quite a few with this incognito, it's called, which we can't really explain too much, but it's an oil, like a resin, but it's the same concentration as cryo, so it's insane levels of lupulins.
Okay.
So it's extremely potent, but it looks like motor oil, it's like orange.
Really thick.
Yeah, when you used to get hop oil, it was like a little tincture and then you rub it and it stink like bad aftershave. But this stuff is like, the whole brewery smells of it for weeks. So it's cool to play around with them, but for us this year was more about collaborating with hop farmers and suppliers to make, to push it forward. Because if we can't have the brewers come down, then to make a recipe via email is kind of boring. We don't learn anything like that. So
it's hands-on,
Yeah. So as soon as
we can learn something.
As soon as lockdown is finished, we have Pujala coming to brew a Baltic Porter.
Sorry to interrupt you. It's already on the way to Austria, so it will be soon available in Austria.
Perfect. Yeah. So we brewed 2 beers with those. So I know those guys for years, and they said, we want to make a Baltic Porter. We've seen that you're making dark beers, and I said, I've seen you making more Virmalized and IPA, so we'll make 2 beers, 1 IPA, 1 Baltic Porter. And they should be complete like yin and yang, differently from each other. But for us, that was a good example for we can learn a lot from brewing this specific style of beer they make and make really well. Like Pujala are the best dark beers in the world.
That's true.
It's every single time I have one, even though I think I'm not going to enjoy it because it's a barley wine or barrel-aged tequila, I drink it and I think, fuck.
But style-wise,
it's
always on the point.
Yeah, it's perfect.
So completely agree.
So I mean, there's a few next year that we already have agreed. They're supposed to come out this year, but at the moment it's just Burning Sky and Left-Handed Giant. There we did last month. So degrees.
That's on the way also to Austria. We were lucky enough to get some cases.
I would try and get an American brewery over. Maybe if one of is going to Mikkeller or to, some festival, we can say we were this close. I dare say it, but Zach from Trillium said, we'll come over and we'll make something if they're going to Mikkeller or in Europe.
Okay.
So I said, for us it would be funny because everyone in the UK thinks that you guys are up here and Verdant is here. So it would be funny for us to make a beer that's our recipe with just your name on it and see everybody say, look how much better this beer is than regular Verdant. But we know. But maybe we do, maybe we don't.
Make some fun out of it. Yeah.
What else can you do? At the end of the day, it's just beer. It's supposed to be funny. It can't be.
That's still a really important thing. Can you tell us how high are the IBUs of?
The ceilings, they'll be quite low. They should be, I don't know off the top of my head. I would have thought they'd be about 45 to 50 max. I don't think there'll be a lot. We don't really play in that world. It's, I like to drink those IPAs, but they're hard to find now. This Palette Wrecker, what was the Sierra Nevada beer? Torpedo, these older.
Yeah, it's old fashioned, with really high IBUs.
I would like to make some. Actually, I shouldn't show, but I do have one that we're like trying prototype.
Okay.
But it's unfair to show because you guys don't have it.
Yeah. And keep it.
We are working next year. We are working on like a bitter West Coast, like trying to make 68 to 75 IBU, like actually, bite. It reminds you of these older beers. But it's hard for us because everyone expects us to make a hazy beer. So when we make a clear bitter beer, they're like, oh, what's wrong? What's happened?
What's happening? They're changing everything.
Yeah.
What's happening? So there's a question coming. I would answer that in German, but it's also, there can be a connection, There's a guy asking about the prices.
Okay.
If people are scared about the prices here in Austria, and if Verdant is a product for on-trade as well, but I can also give the loop back to you, Tell us a little bit about the price structure of Verdant. And then, Stefan, I will answer you the question about the Austrian market.
Okay. So the price structure is like, it's probably the biggest, I don't know, it's not issue, but, let's say hurdle problem that we face is that there are beers that are cheaper than ours, in the same way that there are cars that are cheaper than Tesla or Ferrari or Porsche or whatever. But for us as a manufacturer and a producer, it's like we want to make the absolute best beer we can. And we feel like we do. We know that, we could use less of raw materials, but we're not going to get the same product. And the thing that makes these beers that expensive is the hops. The hops are really like green gold. We're talking at least 3 times the hop rate of any other beer. And look, I'm not going to sit and name breweries because I don't want to be that guy. I don't care. But if you put our beer against any other brewery in the UK, with the exception of maybe 5, it's winning. And it's winning because of that reason. That is all those 4 ingredients, water, malt, hops, and yeast, they're important. But for our style, IPAs, pales, and dippers, hops are the most important. And the way we balance them and work with them and play with it, I appreciate that beers at 8, 9, 10 euros a can might look like we're all driving yachts and, living the life, but we don't. 75% of everything that comes back in goes on to making new beers. We don't. We're not trying for world domination here. We're really happy in our little area, and our little area is making really good beer. And I'm not really sure if there's an easier way to put it like that. Like if you look at fashion, if you look at cars, if you look at any other consumer products, you have your tiers in the way that you purchase, I'm pretty certain that if you want to go buy a pair of, I don't know, give me a really expensive, like let's say watches. You want a Rolex or you want a fucking Casio? It's the reason is the craftsmanship and the materials and why you get what you get. With beer, it's never going to be the same levels, but it is the same principle that we're using more, we're making it better, and you will be able to taste the difference. I'm not going to shit on breweries, but for sure, you have a Maltsmith or whatever this Guinness IPA thing is called these days, Hop House 13, it is not the same as this. Absolutely not the same as this.
I completely agree, and that was a perfect answer from your side. And Stefan, I can tell you, of course, it's hard to sell. But more and more people, if they ever get their hands once on a beer of James Brewery, then most of them comes back, they are coming back on a constant way, and it's a luxury good. Let's call it a luxury good, as James did the explanation with, for example, Rolex and Casio. There are beers which are really well done. They are hoppy and they're nice and they're balanced and they're really drinkable. And price-wise, they're more affordable. But then you can get beers, which you really say, okay, wow, that can be a game changer. So especially when it comes to hoppy beers, New England IPAs, all that kind of stuff, pale ales, deepers, and all that stuff, I completely agree with James. They do a phenomenal job, and I was lucky enough that I know James for a longer time, and I would say we get kind of a really good relationship, maybe friendship,
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
And so I was pushing him, please, give me the chance, or give us the chance here in Austria to taste the beers. And then it was during lockdown 1, that James says, okay, I put some cases on site for you, and then we get it for the first time. And now, even in this difficult year, we are close to make the third order, which was also a surprise for me because it's expensive and it's special. Here in Austria, we really like beer, we enjoy beer, but on another way and in another style, and also on another price point. But overall, I'm happy. And Stefan, also the question, if it's a product for on-trade, unfortunately, there are sitting some kegs in our warehouse because there were already some bars which get an understanding what the beers are staying for, and they ordered some, and now they're sitting in our warehouse. And maybe we can do in the beginning of January kind of a Verdant opening party in some places.
Yeah, sure. Can I just nip to the toilet? Is it okay?
Yes, you can go.
Yeah.
For sure you can go.
Getting older,
I will entertain.
Yeah, great.
Und das ist der Punkt, weißt du, das ist, jetzt nochmal zurück zu der Frage, es ist natürlich etwas, das schwierig ist, das teuer ist, aber mehr und mehr Leute verstehen ganz einfach, was es bedeutet, Spezialitäten zu kaufen und zu genießen, und speziell jetzt in dieser Zeit, wenn du jetzt zum Beispiel siehst, nehmen wir nur das Thema Brot. Brot gibt es im Wert von 20 Cent, nehmen wir die Semmel her, bis hin zu einer Semmel, die 3 Euro kostet. Die Frage ist es okay? Ist es das wirklich wert? Aber aufgrund der Qualität und aufgrund der Frische, und speziell der Frische, wenn du jetzt nimmst so eine Semmel, die zum Beispiel etwas teurer ist als ein mass-produced Product, dann ist es so, dass die Semmel länger haltbar ist und länger Spaß macht, diese zu verzehren. Und genau das Gleiche ist beim Bier. Das Bier natürlich sollte man so frisch wie möglich, genauso das Brot oder die Semmel, aber klingt jetzt vielleicht sehr kompliziert oder sehr eigen, aber ich glaube, dass es sehr ähnlich ist. Die Qualität hat halt leider ihren Preis, aber am Ende setzt sich halt die Qualität sehr oft durch. Es muss nicht immer heißen, wenn etwas teurer ist, dass es besser ist, aber speziell jetzt wieder zurück zu den Bieren von Verdant, von dieser Brauerei, dann waren bis jetzt alle Biere, die ich verkostet habe, wirklich top, und es war jedes Mal spannend. Und glaubt mir, auch meine Frau sagt oft, warum geben wir so viel Geld für Bier aus? Und ich sage, ja, aber es schmeckt halt ganz einfach ganz anders als Biere, die wir alltäglich trinken, und darum trinken wir diese Biere. So, welcome back, James.
Thank you.
I would say we go now for the next beer.
Yep, let's do it. We're going to Sharks. It's Sharks time now.
It's Sharks time, yeah.
Brilliant. My favorite, most popular, just the quintessential beer that describes the brewery for me.
Okay.
It's Citroen Galaxy, dry hop the fuck out of an IPA. It's like, it's the most me thing you can think of. Silly label, silly name. Everyone remembers it. And just, this is the kind of like the beer that we're trying to, or the beer that gets most recognition as, that is a Verdant beer, that's the flavor, that's the style, that's them, like in a can.
It's a really cool label, to be honest.
Get a lot of,
really stays out.
Yeah. Should get a lot of melon, white grape, like just fruit juice. Like it's a dangerous beer, for sure. That perfect murky sort of off golden color. Like, don't get me wrong, I love all the beers, but for me, this one is just the There's something about it, the way everything just singing together. Like this is if I could only give you one beer to try of all of our beers, it's this one. All the time.
No, it's really it's intense. It's the freshness. You really can smell the freshness, the hoppiness, How many grams per liters are inside this beer?
That one's 22, which is not the highest amount that we use, but for those two hops, it's they go a long way. Certain hops you need to use a lot.
Okay.
Azacca, especially Azacca, anything that has like a subdued flavor, you need to put a lot more in there to bring it up, or work with hops that will lift it. So there's combinations and trios that work together. But, Citra and Galaxy, they're quite often two that they don't clash, but, people use either Citra or Galaxy to bring up that beer. But just together, you need to use a lot of them because Citra has this extremely difficult flavor once you get to a certain point where people get a very intense off flavor from it. And then the same with Galaxy. It's like, I don't want to use the expression, but, I'm sure you've heard it, tasting all the beers and judging all the beers with Citra, it gets a bit ammonia-y and a bit, extreme. Whereas Galaxy is like eating too many oranges. It's just overload. Yeah. All you can get is this thing. But when you can make them work together, it just becomes this glorious, that's the fucking plan that it should have been. If they were the same plant, that would be how it tasted. Because they're so close in genes that they should be.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's true.
So that's the logic and the reason behind this beer.
So there's a long question now.
Okay.
I have to read this question.
Sure.
Alex, he is again the owner of Next Level Brewery here in Austria. Regarding the price of those kind of beers, it's not only the price of hops and insane amount of hops, but also, and most importantly, the huge loss of beer due to that high amount of hops. They kind of soak up the beer. People need to get more insight about production, and then they will understand the price range.
I agree completely, but I also think one thing at a time. Like first, this isn't to say he's wrong at all. He's completely right. But first, let's teach the consumers about how beer can taste, and then we can explain how we make it. We lose a lot. And in simple terms, we don't get 100% out the tank of what we put in the tank. We get about 74, 75% if we're lucky. But Alex is completely right. But again,
he's seen it from the brewer's perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to make these calculations, and for all of us, it's understandable. But often, if you're a small brewery or a big brewery, it doesn't matter. It always is the same problem. What you have.
This is where brewing is completely different to any other process except making coffee. Everyone will say, my machine does this machine does that. It goes from here to here to here. If you're making shoes, it's sewing machines. If you're making any kind of clothing, it's the raw materials. With brewing, it's the raw materials and the machinery and the staff. If they don't know what they're doing, or they're not doing it properly, and you're losing 25, 30% of the batch, then you've got to make the prices more And you don't have the time with the customer to show them this. You can't explain it.
The consumer is not really interested, because it's only important quality of the shirt, name of the product, and the price, and that's it. They've
got a million other things to worry about. Why should they care how you set your business up? If you're not making it properly, okay, I'll find someone that does. It's there's too many things going on in people's lives to worry about that. And local businesses, your friends' breweries, or the one down in the next town or city, you always support them a little bit, but I have the same thing here. I love the guys down the road, but they make kind of shitty beer. but they're down the road. So I help them and I try and I'm like, yeah, I'll buy a 6-pack and I never drink it, but I buy it because they're trying.
Try to do something at least.
But he's completely right. It's just, I feel, first thing, we got to get people onto hazy beer because they struggle in the UK with hazy beer. They just tell me it's wrong. They don't like it. Secondly, they got to understand what we're trying to, go with the flavors. And then we can explain price-wise, we don't actually make a ton of money. Come and see us, It's not the dream life that people think it is.
James, I'm wondering a little bit before I come to the next question. It was the second time that you were telling us, that people are struggling and it's hard to sell hazy IPAs in the UK. Because for most of us, I would say for really most of us, it seems to be the place where which is the most easiest place to sell all that kind of hazy New England beers at the moment when it comes to Europe.
Yeah, okay.
Is this something which we think it is? And you can tell us the truth that the consumption of hazy IPAs in the UK is nearly done.
The truth of the matter is, the size of the country, we're very, very, very high population for a small space.
Mm-hmm.
But let's assume we're 68 million people, which I think is about accurate. So 68 million, let's say 55 million drink. Are over 18. Let's say 50 million drink. Let's say 30 million drink beer. Let's say 20 million of those care what they drink. It's going down all the time. The issue that we have is the same issue all the breweries have. Under 40, no problem, can get them, right? But under 40, you can only go to 18 because of the drinking age. So you actually have 12 years. If I give this beer to anyone over 40, nope. I want to drink Fuller's. I want to drink Guinness. I want to drink Pride. I want to drink a brand I've drank all my life. Stella, Orange Boom. They don't care. They're drinking this beer, and that's it. The biggest challenge we have when I say hazy beers is converting people to just understanding that beer can be hazy. With 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, it's no problem because they don't care. The millennials don't care about what it looks like. They only care how it is. Like, are your brewery ethical and does it taste good? Yeah, cool. That's what we are interested in.
But for example, when you get them on a tasting,
yeah,
and you give them a proper taste and a proper trial, to taste that kind of varieties of beers, what's then the reaction of the group of age over 40?
Over 40 is...
Are they changing then or not?
Yeah, massively. But it's very difficult to make them... so the last example a good one would have been when I went over to Sweden last time for Stockholm Festival. And a friend of a friend is a very famous graphic designer in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, okay, I'm going to bring my dad. And I was like, oh, his dad is, notoriously edgy designer who, artwork. He's going to be looking at the cans and talking about this stuff. So anyway, I sat him down with the beers and he's like looking at every single can. I was like, okay. I talked about Carlsberg and he said, oh, yeah, okay. Here, I used to drink Carlsberg. And I was like, okay, so do you remember this beer about Carlsberg? He's like, yeah, I do. Okay, the bar has one of those. So I go and get him the flight and then this bottle of Carlsberg Elephant or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And I give him mine and he's looking at it like, I've just pissed on the table or something. Like he's so annoyed at this beer. And I got this Elephant. I was like, try the Elephant first. He's like, oh yeah, I know this. It's okay. It's good. I was like, yeah, but you don't know why it's good. You just think it's good. You're told it's good,
Because history vibes.
You grew up with it being good, but you never had anything else. It's like if you only ever ate McDonald's and someone gave you a carrot, you would think the carrot was fucking amazing. you know, because all of a sudden your body is happy.
Yeah.
And he's looking at this beer and he's like, oh, I don't know. I was like, just drink a little bit of it. So slowly. Third time. Wow. Yeah, okay. So I need basically to sit in front of every old person and tell them about beer. And we're okay.
No. That's the point, you know. At the moment, I also have so many tasting with companies, you know. It's kind of a new thing, you know, for companies, for advertisement and all that kind of stuff, you know. And it takes time and explanation. But when you get the people on your side, you know, and they trust you and they understand and see what you want to tell them and teach them, then you can get them easily on your side, you know, and they will not change it from day to day, you know. They will stop drinking their regular beer, which they are raised off, you know, but
we don't really want them to do that.
Get an understanding, you know, what it means to brew a beer like you do.
Yeah, for me, it's
understand the price, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of speaking, a lot of talking, and a lot of education. But then, when you have them, I say, and it's coming more and more people, really.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's really important that you know, the first thing I tell them is, look, I drink about 16 pints of Stella on a Saturday. You know, I'm not trying to make us your new favorite thing. You know, it's not a pitch to take over your world, but it's important for me as someone who makes it that people understand this exists and this is a thing. And, you know, maybe Verdant isn't the beer for you. Maybe it's the Colonel, maybe it's Beavertown, maybe it's whoever. But just exposing them to other breweries, it's a really important thing for me. You know, at the same time I was ever given the first beer that made me go, what the fuck is that? Was Red Hook Longhammer IPA, you know, which is not a very glamorous beer. Okay, 10 years ago, it was probably a cool-ish beer. Now it's like, really? Not cool.
Not cool at all.
That's true. Someone said to me, you drink Stella, have you ever had an actual IPA? There it goes.
That's true. That's true. It's so interesting to talk with you. Next question before we go to the next beer is again from Alex. You know, now he gets it really, you know, into, and he wants to know it. What is the size of the brew house and the approximately output per patch hot wort versus packaged beer?
Okay, so I'd like to work backwards on this question. The packaged beer, so the losses will depend completely on the style of beer and what we're making. A single batch should be 4,000 liters. So the tanks that we have, the fermentation tanks are all 10. So the rule of thumb is we double batch brew for single fermentation. So if we brew 8, then we transfer slightly under 8. Then after losses, we're all about on even. We will occasionally do triples, but that's very, very rare. But the brew house is modular, so we can produce more if we want to produce more. So to answer his question, fermenters, 10,000 liters. Average batch size is 8,000 liters. After losses, we're probably getting anywhere between 6,800 to 750. Which I think was pretty on the head, right?
Yes, Alex, I would say that was a really open and really fair answer from James. So
we get
something out of this, you know, Alex. So perfect.
Very much an open book. Our production this year should finish. If we brew the problem I have now is we have 3 beers that we should brew on the package on the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, and I really want the team to package those beers and go home for like 2 weeks and have some time with their families between Christmas and New Year's. So if we can do that, then we'll package 10,000 hectoliters, which is really good. And if we can't, then obviously it'll be just under, but that's the plan. The dream is to say to the guys, work really hard before Christmas and take that whole week off before and come back January 3rd, you know,
That's great. And even in those difficult times, that's something, you have to tell. And
it's a very non-British thing, this work-life balance. It's not normal here. Here is like just fucking work until you finish, and it's not good.
Yeah, of
they're
course.
Not happy, they're not productive. The brewery it's not a good place to be.
The feeling inside, you can feel it if the owners take care of the people, because then it's a different kind of feeling. People,
you're at work
and smile when they go for work.
Exactly. You're at work for 7 hours a day. It should be good 7 hours, not a bad 6.5. You're not going to do nothing if you're in a shitty mood.
That's true, because most of the time we're going to spend at our working places.
Yeah, talking shit about the bosses.
Yes, that's true. So
now, Gus.
Yes. Now we come into a big one.
Yeah, big time. Be careful of Gus. I can't tell you nothing about the artwork for that one. That was before my time.
Okay.
Other than I think it's really cool, just for this, very obvious. I forget the name of the style.
It's a double IPA.
No, the artwork, like this very 60s comic book. Yeah, I know what beer it is. But yeah, it has a name. I'm sure it still has a name. This very 60s comic book.
You mean, yeah, the kind of artwork, how the artwork is called.
Yeah.
The way of artwork.
Yeah.
Maybe someone can tell us.
I'm sure
that kind of artwork is called.
I want to say Hockaday. It's not Hockaday. I'm getting mixed up with my eyes. But so again, we got the Citra, like Sharks, but this time is a Mosaic and Idaho 7. Now, Idaho 7 is another one of those new, slightly modern hops that no one really knows where it's going. But you should really feel everything you felt with Sharks, but amplified like that. The point of having Gus after Sharks is that you feel like it's the same beer, but with batteries in it. It's just a bigger, bolder, stronger version of it. So that I find the double IPAs start to get just a bit sweeter than our IPAs, like a little bit more sugar, which is fine. Like that's how they should be. But I can straight away, if you gave me 5 blank cans and 4 of them were IPAs and one of them was double IPA, I'd spot the double IPA with the sweetness.
Okay.
Yeah. But I like that Idaho 7 just brings it up a little bit. It's just the right side of warm, like here.
No.
It starts and then stops.
Mm-hmm.
We have this obsession in the UK with Golden Promise, this flaked, base malt.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if your brewers can get it as much as like for us it's a luxury, but it's considered like a base malt. But for a lot of other countries, it's considered like a specialty malt. But yeah, Simpson's Golden Promise is, I would build every beer around it if possible. It has the sugar content, the proteins, like everything we want is from this. If we could have a silo of that, we would. Now we have to blend pale and pilsners and Golden Promise or crisp, into this. But a lot of American breweries are very jealous that they can't get this.
Really?
Oh, they can buy it, but it's so expensive.
Expensive for them. Okay.
Now we're going into the complete, opposite end of the spectrum where they're jealous of something that we have when we've been trying to emulate their brewing for 10 years.
Okay.
We'd just like to see a hop farm like a good hop farm that wasn't growing East Kent Goldings.
But the point is, that even, we now have a beer in the glass with 8 ABVs, it's still really drinkable, and it's really dangerous, as you mentioned, because
it should be.
Yeah, that's the most important thing, and all your beers, all the beers from the brewery, they're always really high in drinkability, and they can be super high ABV wise, really intense hop wise, which are most of them, but always they are super enjoyable and drinkable.
I think we could probably push them higher, but for us, it's never really been about, the ABV side of it. It stands out on the can and the label, but it doesn't really make a big difference to the consumer, So the rule of thumb is if you were to constantly buy our beers, you would see our pale ales are under 5, our IPAs are under 7, and our dippers we can never break 8. And we're okay with that, Some people are producing 11% double IPAs, and I'm like, no, that's a fucking triple IPA all day long, It's double digits. But, the way our yeast behaves and the way it pairs off with the malt bill, it's generally very simple, and it stays between those thresholds. Historically we've really struggled to get a beer or a pale ale or double IPA, to go above 8%. We've never really tried, but the couple of times we've thought we'll just let it do its thing, it gets to 8 and it just stops. And we're like, okay, well that's where we are, and that's what we want. I would love to try a 10% version of Gus to see how much different it was, but it won't. That's the life cycle of that yeast, and that tells me that we're in the right spot, because every time I have those beers, I'm like, well, there's nothing I want to change about it. I'm not saying it's perfect, but there's nothing I would say I'd rather it tasted this or that, or differently. So that tells me it's sort of a little bit like working as intended.
That's true. You told us before this beer that the output can be, by the end of the year, 10,000 hectoliters. Can you tell us a little bit of the split,
Between styles?
Which is domestic, which is export, which is what is going on,
Yeah, so the rule of thumb is that, and I'm sorry to say this, the rule of thumb is very much that 80% of what we make should be sold in the UK.
Okay.
And that's not to say we won't sell it outside, but we work from that and then we work backwards. So if the UK is really busy or really slow, or something's happening, holidays, or, let's say there's a festival at Cloudwater and we know the American guys are coming over, so there's going to be loads of IPAs, double IPAs at the market, we can change it. The sales mix, we try, of that 80%, to say 30% is wholesale, 30% is through our web shop, and the rest is through our own 2 bars. But if you're a bar in the UK and want to take us, you're going to get told, we haven't got any beer. The rule is, once we sell beer to you once, we have to keep selling you beer. For me, it's like relationships and planning and building, and,
Okay, so it's not possible to get a one-off.
Nope. If you want to get a one-off, then you have to know your wholesaler really well, and he will take care of you. Because for us as a brewery, right, and this is something that a lot of consumers won't understand, we're really small in terms of team. So I can't have 4 sales guys telling everyone, bang, 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 here's beer, here's beer. I have to give my beer my beer to the wholesalers, and they're like an extension of my team. So you guys in Austria are selling my beer, we're really happy for that. So I can't tell you in November you can buy, but January you can't buy. Like, that's shit. Once we go to you, we have to match that. Yeah. So for me, it's like every time, if you don't want it, okay, we'll never be annoyed, but we have to offer it to you.
Yeah.
Else, then not fun to do business with, and constantly changing, and then it's not good.
Online, we are now on an online tasting. And we get in this situation, lockdown 1. You already told us the story with your friend in Hong Kong that you get prepared before other breweries get prepared because you extended your contract with Crown.
Yep.
And this issue with global kegs. But let's talk a little bit about lockdown 1, how the business changed. Then we get, let's say, slightly back to new normal.
Yep.
And now we are in lockdown 2. So lockdown 1 was, I guess, a nightmare, a disaster. And then it was...
Lockdown 1 was really strange because me and Paul from Cloudwater had seen it coming or heard about it, and obviously everyone's listening to the news, they're hearing about it in other places, but they're thinking, it can't be us, it can't be as bad as people say. And this is April, so this is the time of the year when we are expected to push and kick on and grow, and really start making some beer, and going into summer, everything's happening. So when they said, okay, lockdown is happening, when everybody said, opinion is oh, it's only going to be 4 weeks, and no, it's not. So we will change everything we do. We will completely go from 70-30 on trade to off trade, because we used to sell a lot of beer on trade. It was a thing for us that if bars had our beer on, people would go to that bar because it's our beer. They can't get it other places. Mm-hmm. So we completely changed it to off trade. But then comes with that this huge problem that all these bars have helped you and supported you, that you've got to do something for them. So then we said, okay, for every single time that, we would have sold you a keg, but we can't, we'll sell you a case, and you can sell that for takeaway. That's the only thing we can offer you as a brewery. We can't make you a special beer because you're not allowed to sell it. Mm-hmm. But we promise you've bought our beer before. We will sell you these cans, and you can, sell them for takeaway. So yeah, it was a huge issue. And in April, the production went down to about maybe 300 hectoliters. It was tiny. It was maybe 3 brews. It was a joke. It was what the fuck?
For a brewery like you.
Yeah. And then, it comes back up. And if I'm brutally honest, August and September were amazing. We made so much beer and we sold so much beer, but we knew why that was happening. It was summer and people didn't want to fly. So every person in the UK went to the south. It's a standard thing, So your options in the south are Cornwall, are Devon, are Wiltshire, or Hampshire, So you can go Brighton, Southampton, Plymouth, or Cornwall. And everyone came to Cornwall, so we knew that the figures were not true. What we were selling was not actually representative of the space. So fair enough, but what it did for us was show us, if we ever have to go from extreme on-trade to extreme off-trade, we can do it properly. And if we have to go the other way, we can do it properly. And we can keep the bars happy. Every single person that we trade with has said to us, we appreciate that. You didn't have to do that. And it's the same, if you guys say there's no on trade until March, we'll work with you with that. We understand. We'll say, okay, we'll help you. If you've bought beers for January to sell, but you can't sell them, just call them and we'll figure it out. People have to see that this is a very unique business in the supplier and the producer and the wholesaler. They really care about what they do. Mm. It's not the same as, I keep using shoes as an example. It's terrible. Yeah. It's, if I want to go to a shop and buy a pair of Nikes, the guy selling me them don't care about Nike. It's not. This is a very unique business where every chain Every link in the chain is they care, you know. So yeah, it was shitty, and it was a really tough adjustment. And we were really lucky that not more breweries didn't survive. You know, the guys that I worry about in the UK especially is the wholesaler, you know, the guys that, because we don't import a lot of beer. You guys are in a position where you import a lot of specialty stuff. People ask you for beer. Here, the UK in the last 3 or 4 years kind of turned its nose up at import beer. And now it's hurting them, you know. There's a lot of UK breweries that they won't be around this time next year.
Okay.
You know,
that's really bad to hear and sad to hear, but yeah.
Yeah, it's brutal, but you know, the adult in me is like, that's the cycle of being a fucking adult. You know,
yeah, that's true.
If you're a good brewery or a good business, you survive, and if you're not, then you don't. And there's always a few anomalies. And you know, I hope their staff land, but at the same time, if you can't make it work, there's a reason. You know, it's cruel, but it's life.
Yeah. But can you see a difference between, let's say, only the online business, you know, between lockdown 1 and lockdown 2?
Yeah, big.
Was the online business better during lockdown 1?
Yeah, massively better. Because they knew, or they were told, I say the British public were told that this is just the way it will be for a while now, and the government will pay your wage not to go to work or to support your staff, or, you know, it feels like there was a lot of this safety net for lockdown 1 than for lockdown 2. And now it feels every week when we look at the sales report, relief. You know, well done, guys. We know that money's coming in. It's here. We're okay. Lockdown 1, we thought, you know, people are just spending because, yeah, let's be honest. If you're spending 7 days in your house, how the fuck are you going to get through that without drinking? You know, sooner or later, you're going to have a beer or cigarette, or you got to allow yourself as a human your vices. Mm-hmm. If it's a takeaway, if it's cigarette, beer, who cares? You've got to have a
relief. Who cares? That's the point. Yeah, that's true.
So we knew we'd be okay. Now it's Christmas. You've got to look after yourself, your family, your kids. You know, this is a big problem for us. We don't know when it's going to finish. This is another big problem for us. And now everyone's like, it's just tighter. It just feels like before they didn't care about spending. Now they care about spending.
Okay. That's interesting to hear, you know, because what we saw here in Austria was everyone was really scared, shocked, and the streets were empty during lockdown 1, really hard lockdown. Then we get during summer, blah, blah, blah. Then we get the second soft lockdown, okay. And now we are in lockdown 2, which will be changed to soft lockdown 3 by the beginning of next week, because all the stores will be open and haircuts and all that kind of stuff, you know. But during the really hard lockdown 2, it was completely different compared to lockdown 1, because the streets were busy. Yep. People were out on the streets because, I don't know, maybe they feel more comfortable, more on the safe side, because they had survived lockdown 1, which was a really big thing.
For here, it's not that. For here, it's like as inflammatory and as difficult as it's going to be for people to hear. For here, people say it affects less than 1% of the world. So why the fuck should we keep letting it affect us? You know, as wrong. And I appreciate it's a stupid thing to say. When I say it aloud, I don't agree with it. But and hindsight is like 2020, so I can't change it. But the way they should have done it is spend all this money and effort and attention on the vulnerable people and let everyone else live their lives. Because for a virus to kill less than 1% of the whole population, for everything to stop, is kind of crazy. You know, when you think about what you're saving for what you're killing, you know, it's actually really unfair. And I'm not saying that it becomes, you know, oh, you've got a lung problem or a breathing problem, you don't deserve to live. It's not that at all. It's about how dependent we are as a class on money and structure, and, you know, what that means. You know, it's absolutely brutal to me to see that people lose their jobs that they've been doing for 4 or 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, because of something that doesn't really affect them, has closed all these things. It's like, damn, you know, I mean,
that's really damn.
I feel really bad as someone that really, you know, I don't really contribute that much to the world. I make a beer. It's not really the end of the world. You know, I'm not a fucking doctor or a surgeon or someone that does it. Actually, I'm counterproductive to those guys, you know. I'm making their work harder for them. But yeah, I just feel if it happened in 2, 3, 4, 5 years' time, then the action would be, okay, who is vulnerable? The effort should be to protect them and let everyone else just go about it, you know. This, just stay in your houses, it's not good. It's really, you know, then you get into this terrible debate about freedom and I should be able to do what I want. And, you know, it's a mess. It really is a mess.
That's true. So there's a really interesting question coming out from Stefan. Most of the, let's say, Austrian breweries put in front of the style New England. It only should be hazy, then it's a New England.
No.
But here, wait, that's how we do it here in the middle of Europe, let's say Austria and some surroundings. But he figured out that there are also, you know, beers which are called pale ale and they are hazy. And normally the Austrians are used to call it New England pale ale.
Oh, okay.
And there is, you know, kind of an IPA which is hazy, but you never call it New England IPA. What is the reason for that?
I don't think we put New England on the front of anything, really. If you can find a can that says New England on it, I'll be amazed.
Okay, then.
Yeah. On the front. I don't think we put it.
Oh, but why you don't call it New England?
Because for me, it's you know, it's not something that's stylistic to that place. It's not. You're a BJCP judge, you know. It's not like you can prove to me that hazy beer comes from New England.
Yeah.
No, it got very popular there from breweries there, but you cannot say only you guys did it. You know, it's not a Kvike, it's not a Flanders, it's not a style. It's easy to sell it because everyone understands that reference point when you say New England IPA or hazy IPA or, you know, Vermont IPA. But it's not something that only you guys can do that is relative to that space. So, yeah, that I stay away from that term. I do prefer the term hazy to New England. Like I don't see what those breweries do that no one else can do, you know. Essentially, and I know it will probably piss a few of them off, they made it by mistake. You know, it wasn't intentional. They didn't aim to do this. It wasn't the thing that they thought they could make a better beer by not doing this. And, you know, Wayne at Cigar City has hours and hours and hours of research and studies, thesis that are way more in depth than anyone else could ever produce that says, you know, centrifuging versus, you know, for clear beer versus centrifuging or non-centrifuging for hazy beer, parts per billion for hops, there's no difference. So you can't tell me or him or anyone that, you know, understands the science of a brewing process that there are more hops in this than there would be in a clear beer. It's completely subjective. Like, you cannot prove it. So to put New England as a style is...
Yeah, but there is, you know, there is in every competition, you know, it can be the World Beer Cup, it can be the European Beer Star, there is a New England style IPA. But what then, excluding the haziness of the beer, what is the definition of an New England IPA? It's the haziness.
No, not just. If you're asking that question, like to define that style, I would say
Tastes,
Yeah, I would say it's a factor. The haziness is a factor, but also is the high hop content with the low bitterness. You know, you have to be sort of. I'd say you've got to be under 50 IBU, but you've also got to have a lot in there. You want that cheating, you know. I say cheating like it's a bad thing. You want that big, juicy mouthfeel that wraps around your palate, that gives you this, you know, like you're eating some fruit. It doesn't really taste like a beer that you know.
Yeah.
But the body is big, so you feel like a little bit like, oh, I'm kind of having a lot of calories when I'm drinking this. You know, you want all those things. That would be what it is. I just don't think that New England is the phrase.
No, but that's the explanation you gave us now. It's more or less what we tasted already or so far out from your brewery, you know, and that's more or less that's the explanation of New England.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's I don't want to say the problem, but the reason that it happened is that so many breweries from that area were coming up and doing this, and sadly, very few from the other coast, and it became like a East versus West, and it's actually, you know, you go looking into it, Great Notion is on the West Coast, Cloudburst is on the West Coast, Monkish, you know, there's ridiculously good breweries making these beers.
I was there last year. In
so they don't say, you know, West Coast, they just say IPA or whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, I feel like that's a very American thing. Like, we have to tell you what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and put our area thing, you know. Can you imagine a British IPA? I'm like, no, it sounds old and shit. Like, no one's gonna like that. You know, it's not gonna work. So we just use hazy. It's easier.
Hazy. Okay. Then forget New England. James. Last beer.
Which double IPA are we going for?
It's an IPA.
Examine our allocations. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, we took this one because, as you can see on the label, we did 4 hops, 2 Aussie, 2 New Zealand, 2 cold side, 2 hot side. Like, this is a very experimental beer. So, it should leave you with a lot more hop profile than the other beers. It won't have the sweetness of the double IPAs. So Ella and Enigma are, Marcus, what was the old name for Enigma before it was Ella? It was some T90 like nonsense hop. It's been in development for a long time, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it can only be grown. The rules are it can only be grown in Australia in certain parts with certain climates. And we thought, okay, it's very similar to Galaxy, which is also an Australian hop. So we'll put it with Enigma, and we did those on the cold, and then the Kiwi hops, which are much more stone fruity, you know, gooseberry, kiwi, on the cold side.
What was the full name?
Should be a big, big, big fruit explosion.
Yeah.
Should be. We don't get to play so much with.
That's phenomenal, huh?
We don't get to play so much with those Kiwi hops. You know, they're hard to get.
Yeah.
I got us in trouble about that label as well.
About this label?
Yeah.
Why?
Because Daya released their boxing glove the same week. And we didn't know. We had no idea.
Ringside action.
Name is a piss take about how much people buy beer from us, that we don't know what to make, how much to make, so we've got to look at our allocations.
It's, again, even it's the last one, and after to taste them all in a row, it really makes sense, what you explained us in the beginning, because of the intense of the hoppiness, because then you can go back and forth, smell, taste.
If we do it like this, it's okay. Like I won't be upset, but the bigger beers that need that time and that, if we drink 3 double IPAs together, you're only going to taste the first one because we're not in a bar, and I can't say, here's the tonic water, here's something to cut it through it. There's no break. It's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I might as well just only do double IPAs, and then everyone's having a great time and they're drunk by 7 o'clock.
That's true. So one of the last questions will be, tax-wise, how is the government supporting breweries in the UK? Is it kind of it's owned by, or is it about the size, or what is the way of structure? How they support, if even they support?
So before COVID, before all of this, the general rule is based on size. So we're on a sliding scale. So at the bottom, if you make 5,000 hectoliters, then you're allowed 60% tax off. And then as you go up every 10, it goes down 10. So the bigger breweries at 50, 60,000 hec, they don't get nothing. But those guys, you're talking big breweries. So it benefits you to stay under 15,000 hectoliters, unless you have your own pubs, and then it doesn't really matter. But that's like a super quick back of cigarette packet. Maths.
Okay. Cool.
Right. I'm moving to the toilet again. Back to questions in a second.
Okay.
This is the most I've done in 4 months.
Sie hat jetzt gerade gesagt, am Weg. Er hat jetzt gerade gesagt, der James am Weg. Das ist eine der größten Verkostungen, die er jemals gemacht hat, aber ich glaube, es ist so super spannend, ihm zuzuhören, und die Offenheit, die er uns gegenüberbringt, ist, glaube ich, etwas, das wirklich sehr selten ist, und das aber auch gleichzeitig das Schöne ist und das Spannende ist, wenn du diese Biere verkostest und eben diese Offenheit gegenüber erfährst und bekommst, dann macht es so richtig Spaß. Ganz kurz, während der James jetzt am WC ist, so wie ich eingangs erwähnt habe, der Lockdown begleitet uns leider weiter. Also es bedeutet, wir haben noch längere Zeiten im Trockenen, sprich ohne Gastronomie für uns, was natürlich für uns alle sehr traurig ist. Aber nichtsdestotrotz machen wir weiter mit Verkostungen. Drink at Home wird etwas sein, das weitergeht. Und so haben wir am 10.12. die Jungs von Berlo, den Braumeister, den Mischer, gleichzeitig einer der Besitzer, die mit uns gemeinsam Biere verkosten werden. Und am 16.12. haben wir Wander Beyond aus Manchester, die letzte Verkostung vor Weihnachten. Aber vielleicht geht sich eine aus zwischen Weihnachten und Neujahr. Dann werde ich das gemeinsam mit euch natürlich sehr gerne machen. Und dann hoffen wir alle, dass nach den Schulferien, nach den Weihnachtsferien die Gastronomie wieder zurück ist. Und dann werden wir die Verkostungen am Leben halten. Aber wenn ihr mich jetzt fragt, wie und wie oft, dann kann ich euch keine Antwort geben. Aber glaubt mir, ich bin am Arbeiten daran, dass wir eine Lösung finden, dass wir diese Verkostungen, dieses Format ganz einfach am Leben erhalten. So, James, you are back.
I'm back. Yeah.
Good to see you back. So, more or less, you're coming back from the toilet and we are done with this tasting.
What, completely finished?
Yes, we had 6 beers. We were super fast.
It didn't last long enough. It didn't last long enough.
What?
It didn't last long enough. We should have done 9.
Again?
We should have done 9.
Oh, we should have done 9, yeah. we can extend this tasting with no problem at all. So for us, it's completely fun.
That was a lot of fun.
So, what do you think about January? Next tasting?
Yeah, sure.
With 9 beers.
Yep.
We're gonna go and break the record here in Austria.
Yeah, let's do it. Because in January we can do 3 dark beers and 6 hoppy beers. So sure, let's do it.
I take you by a word.
Yeah.
Let's go figure something out. Maybe we're gonna do the record and we're gonna extend it over 3 hours. Maybe with some food.
Yeah, sure.
In between and some breaks to go to the toilet. But I will make a note on my paper. 9 beers in January.
9 beers in January. Also, remember that I need to pee a lot. So
yes, yeah. So we're gonna make 3 beers, make a break. 3 beers, make a break.
Perfect.
And,
yeah.
Of course, we're gonna find a way. James.
Great. That'll work.
Thanks.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for
the open words. Thanks for this great tasting. Thanks to give us the chance to get the beers shipped to Austria.
Always, man. Always.
Thanks that we have a friendship. And I would say the last words would come for you before we say good night.
I just got to echo that, what you said. It means a lot to me. And I think the most important thing is that Rapid going to beat Arsenal tonight, right? Like, for sure, that's all we really care about.
James, that's one of my secrets I had, but he brings
I got you.
Light out of the curtain. And yes, that's one of the reasons we have to finish the tasting now, is that I'm a big Rapid Vienna supporter, and we are playing Arsenal tonight away, and I have to watch this game. But I will stay. If there are coming more questions, I will stay. So don't worry about this. But James, yeah, I'm a Rapid Vienna supporter, and I'd be proud of this.
Absolutely.
Okay, we are waiting for some more questions, so there's no hurry, no stress.
Bisher keine neuen Fragen. Alle bedanken sich, dass es super leibend war.
So, there are no new questions popping up at the moment, and so I would say thank you, James.
Thank you.
Again. So, danke. Danke für die unglaublich interessanten Fragen. Danke für die Mitarbeit. Danke, dass ihr dabei wart. Es war schon sehr oft danke, aber es bedeutet mir so viel, dass wir gemeinsam Biere verkosten von Brauereien, wie jetzt zum Beispiel heute Abend, die bei Gott nicht allgegenwärtig sind, bei Gott nicht immer verfügbar sind und bei Gott nichts Normales sind. Aber es zeigt mir, dass wir auf einem richtigen Weg sind, dass wir gemeinsam Neues erforschen, und das ist das Spannende und das Schöne. Und darum sage ich danke, gute Nacht, und bitte kommt auf uns zurück am 10.12. gemeinsam mit Berlo und am 16.12. mit Wander Beyond. Ich wünsche euch einen schönen Abend. Genießt die restlichen Biere, so wie ich es machen werde. Ich sage gute Nacht und hoffentlich bis zum nächsten Mal. Prost.
I understand. Prost.